G'day guys and welcome back to Hayes Homestead. Today marks the first day of autumn and I have to say the weather has really turned it on for us. It's going to be 30 degrees and I think that's quite a nice way to start the autumn. Well, this weekend, as mentioned in the last episode, we had the family down to stay, so I thought I would take this opportunity to utilise an extra pair of hands and get on with a job that I've been meaning to do for a while. It's just, I haven't, because to do it easily, I think it requires at least an extra pair of hands. So we're going to get onto that. Also, now that the lawn has dried up, it needs a mow. Who better to get to do that job? I mean, he was so keen for it, I probably couldn't have even stopped him if I tried. Of course, in this episode, we're going to be finishing the office, or I hope to, and we are going to be getting some cold weather next week, so perfect for us letting the varnish cure and getting on with the furniture in the workshop. So there's a lot to cut and there's a lot to do, but that's all good. That will keep us busy, and then fingers crossed we should have something that looks completely different by the end of this episode. We can only try. I should probably stop mucking around up here on the quad bike in the forest and go and do some stuff, because there is a lot to be done. So let's crack on with it. Before we get to those bits, remember in the last episode when I got the wheel alignment done on the ute and they said I had to replace something? Well, I did that in between now and then, so I'll just quickly show you what happened, because it was not the simple job I was expecting. So I sweep the workshop floor again. So for those of you who correctly guessed that this was called a rod tie end, congratulations, I don't have any prizes to give out, I'm sorry. But this would explain why my steering has been a bit all over the place. As you can see, the wheel is moving even when it's meant to be stationary, and all of this bit in here is all shot, so $30, we're just going to replace this part. I've never done it before, but it looks pretty simple. I think this will be an easy one. Man, did these words come back to bite me. So just part of being on a homestead, things will break, you have to learn how to fix it. Simple as that. Good thing we're doing this. I remove the split pin so I can get the castle nut off. Remove the wheel so I can start getting this thing bashed out. Now, although a hatchet was the only whacker I could find in the workshop at the time, I soon grew tired of it and went and found a lumpy, because this thing wasn't going anywhere. So I kid you not, this has taken me about an hour to get loose. It was so caked with gunk and crap in here under the boot, so I actually had to cut the boot off, spray a load of WD-40 down into here to try and break it up. We let it sit for a few minutes and then we gave it an almighty whack and it came loose. So luckily we've got it loose. So now we just have to unscrew this from here and then screw the new one in, put the new one in here, tighten everything up, and we should be all right. Let's get on with it, because the day is definitely not getting any younger. I'd just like to point out that you should count the threads that are remaining on this before you start unscrewing it, because when you put the new one in, you need to put it back the exact same length, so make sure you count your threads. Now that that fiasco is over, it's time to tighten up the rest of the nuts and get the wheel back on. Quick check of the lugs with a torque wrench and she's back on the road. Now we're all caught up, it's time to watch this legend do what he does best. Now it's time to rope my brother-in-law Peter into doing a job I've been meaning to do for about a year. So it's time for us to get this baby out of here so I can use her somewhere else, because I need that grass back. Now I know it kind of looks like we smashed it to pieces, but believe me, it's still all in very usable condition and we will reuse all of it, so don't worry, no waste. For anyone wondering, this freeloader is Lucy, and she hates everybody, except for me, and she won't dare touch Indy, but she's a little cutie at heart. So the family have just gone home and the floor's not even cold yet. I think a great opportunity to get in here and start sanding it back. I've got plenty of pads, dust mask ready to go. Let's get some rough grit on and start sanding this back to bare timber. It needs to be done properly if we're going to get the stain to take, and we've got to get that stain on and the varnish. As mentioned, will take a week to cure, and next weekend is going to be a bit cooler, a bit more damp weather, and I'm concerned this may prolong the curing process, but not a problem. We have plenty to be getting on with in the workshop. Let's just tear into it and get this done as quick as we can, and hopefully in this video we can get this finished. Let's crack on with it. If I'd been doing a bigger surface area, I probably would have hired a floor sander, but it didn't take me that long with the orbital, so I wasn't that mad. This job was so dusty and messy, no matter what I did to try and contain it, it just got everywhere. So now onto the finer grit. I actually use a pencil across the floor to make sure that I sand down the entire floor and I don't miss any spots. So if you're going to do this job, that's a little tip for you. I think we can all agree that the key to getting the floor finish that you're going for is in the preparation. We sanded back to 240 grit and we have cleaned the whole room top to bottom before we cleaned the floor, vacuumed and then mineral spirit. We let that dry for about an hour to make sure there wasn't any still left lurking in the surface of the timber before we apply our stain. The stain we're putting on with cotton rags and not polyester rags, and the reason we're doing this is because these are a bit more absorbent than this. This may not collect all the stain as you go and you might end up with patches that are darker than you initially had planned. I think these are a safe bet. So now that we're ready to go, it's time to get the stain on and we can start working that in, because the varnish is going to take 24 hours between coats because it's started to get a little bit more humid here due to Cyclone Alfred barreling down on the east coast of Australia. So we're copping a bit of rain at the moment. That's okay, roll with the punches, play it safe, and we'll give it 24 hours between coats. And then that way, we're probably going to end up with a much nicer result. Let's get on with it. Embarrassingly, I thought I had another tray liner, but I don't. So this is the solution that we've come to. I cleaned it out with mineral spirits and we're just gonna have to make do. I'm not driving all the way to town and back just for a paint tray. So we're just gonna use this instead. Adapt and overcome. I will offer this tip when you're using this sort of varnish, and that is to make sure you stir it nice and slow. Don't introduce any bubbles into it, so don't use a drill operated mixer. Just keep a paddle and stir it really slowly, because if you get bubbles in it, you'll have little bubbles in your finished layer and you'll have to sand all of that back. So you're saving yourself some work down the line. Anyway, it's time to get it done, because I'd like to leave as long as possible between sanding back and putting the recoat on, because it's pretty damp outside. Let's just crack on with it. And now we wait. So I'll come back tomorrow and check it out, and hopefully we're ready to sand. The bit up at the back here might be a bit thick because that lamb wool applicator holds a lot of varnish. So anyone who's planning on using a lamb wool applicator, they're really good and the finish is nice, but just be careful how much you load it up because it really comes out once you put it to the timber. So while the first coat of varnish is drying, I need to knock out a couple of jobs that I've been meaning to get to. First up, I've got to put the exhaust back on the log splitter. When the original nut fell out, believe it or not, I found it in the long grass, but because it was as hot as the sun, I was trying to handle it very carefully and put it down on the log splitter. At which point, a huntsman spider decided to crest the peak of my cap, and I came eyeball to eyeball with the furry bastard and dropped the thing in the long grass again, trying to get my hat off. After a long search, I actually managed to find the right thread, and now we got onto it. So it's a good job we got that done, because we got logs to split. Next job is to sharpen the blades on the chipper. Now the reason that I really need to do this is because the last time I was using it, I accidentally picked up my utility knife and threw it down the chute with a bunch of leaves. Needless to say, a knife does not fare well through a chipper, but I'm quite surprised that the blades held up quite well. The knife, however, did not do too great. So perfect jobs for the wet weather. So we've got some clean shoes on and some 400 grit sandpaper, and we're going to key the whole surface back so we can put the next coat down. I'm actually quite happy with how it came out. There are very few little spots where bits have made it into the varnish. That's okay, just sand those back. That's why we sand between the coats. So let's get this done and then let's get on to the furniture because there's quite a bit to do. But yeah, this set really nice. I'm really happy with it. So while we wait for the varnish to dry, we are here in the workshop with the laminated timber panels that we're going to be using for all the furniture. These are the same panels that I'd used in the kitchen and I was quite happy with the results. Even though it's not premium grade timber, it's still pretty good for what we're going to be using it for. Plus we will protect it with a load of Danish oil, still going to be an office, and it will still cop a fair bit of wear and tear. It's a really good idea to stick a really hard wearing coating on your furniture if it's not a food preparation area. Danish oil, tung oil, or you can go with a clear poly. We're using Danish oil because it yields good results. Well, there's a lot to do and there's a lot to cut, so let's just crack on with it. Now, I don't have super fancy tools, but I did make this massive fence out of 18mm marine ply, and it really helps when cutting down large panels like this because you've got a really long reach on it. So even though my tools aren't fancy, they cut true, and actually the results are pretty millimeter perfect, so she does all right. So for the uprights of the window seat, I have marked out all of my recesses and where I need to cut for the rebate of the reveal in the window, so it sits flush into that window reveal, and hopefully the desk and the seat all flow into one. That's the plan. So yeah, I've measured everything a whole bunch of times to make sure that everything is nice and parallel on both sides, so when I go to fit the window seat it slides in nice and easy. We can only hope, but I'm not a cabinet maker, so I'm really sort of making it up as I go along on what I think I should be doing. But yeah, I think it should work, so got to crack on with it. Got a lot to do. Let's go. This panel slipped off the end of the bench at the end of the day, and would you believe it landed on the most vulnerable part of the board. I glued it back and you can't actually tell, but so annoying. So we've glued this up. It looks okay. It's not the end of the world, but I'm just more annoyed at myself about it. But anyway, I've got to crack on because I've had a few extra things thrown into the mix, and plus our car has to be taken away for repairs after we got caught in a hailstorm driving down the freeway about a month ago, so that has to be taken away. So I wanted to get everything out of there that I might need. So yeah, lots to do. Always an adventure here, always something extra that you have to do, but you know, that's just part of homestead life, is jobs will get thrown in, you just got to get them done. Right, let's crack on with this. We really got to get it finished. Not my finest work. I expected a bit of tear out, but it was a little worse than I thought. That's okay. It's purely functional. There's nothing aesthetic about it. It's literally so we can slide it into the windowsill recess, so it'll do its job. We just have to move on and continue. Okay, so please excuse the crudity of this model.
I apologize for the crudity of this model, but
yeah, no, Doc, it's not to scale.
It's not to scale. Imagine, if you will, pendant light sort of hung around here off the shelf. That is a shelf. Well, it's not a shelf, but it's a line that marks the shelf, and the wire protrudes out of the wall just here. So we've marked that out. We'll have desk ducting, so I can do a cable tidy under the desk. My only thing that I need to finalize is whereabouts I'm going to stick this curve in the desk, because there is a smaller gap between the window frame and the wall on my side than there is on Danny's side, so I need to make sure that wherever I put this on my desk, it mirrors across to her desk, and we'll use this template and a flush trim router bit to ensure that the curve in the desk is pretty much identical. So we still have a lot to do. we want to make sure that we give ourselves enough space as possible, but wherever this curve goes pretty much dictates where I'm going to put my monitor and where I'm going to put my laptop. So I want to be absolutely certain that I know where I want it, so I've got enough space to work with without, you know, shooting myself in the foot. We have to make sure that we account for room for the creek art, which we don't really use that much at the moment, but also the printer, which we do use sometimes, and they're both quite big. So we just need to make sure that we leave enough room to be able to use those in the office as well. So while that dried, I had time to kill, and that meant jobs to do. There were a couple of trees that I really wanted to chop up that had long been down, and I would hope to split them and maybe burn them this winter. So after a quick shower, I jumped on the tractor to go and prep the area, which meant doing a bit of mowing. Now, I don't know about you, but I actually really like getting on the slasher. It's quite a fun job to do. In fact, it's probably one of my faves. So now that I've mowed around the tree, busted out the strimmer and got her ready to pull out with the tractor, because we got to chop this one up. She's been dead a long time, so most of it will be usable probably this winter. Danny's parents came back for the weekend with no lawn to mow. Tawane gave me a hand breaking down some of the branches, and we made light work of this. It was actually pretty good. And then while that dries, there's more jobs to do. So I started slashing everything back, getting ready for winter, because there are some big things happening very soon. Got to get this mess out of here. I think it's probably safe to say that we're maybe not going to be able to get the office furniture in this episode, otherwise this one's going to go on for ages. So I think we will just admit defeat this time, and we will make sure that the office furniture is ready to go and get it installed in the next episode. As you can see, there are plenty of jobs to be getting on with while the oil dries, so it's not like we don't have anything to do. Thanks very much for watching. In the next episode we will get the office finished. I promise we will definitely get it done. But yeah, lots happening, as you can see, so yeah, watch this space. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next one. See you around.